Hey, what's up everyone? I'm going to install Braum racing seats into my 2015 Mustang. So the Mustang's a premium pack Mustang, so it has heated and cooled seats in it as well. So I'll document the process in an efficient and effective way. That way you're not spending multiple minutes watching me turn bolts. So I'll try to keep to the point, talk about the tools you're going to need, how the install goes, and this could obviously be universally applicable to any racing seats you go in, but hopefully you choose Braum because those seats are badass. So let's walk you through the installation of Braum racing seats into my 2015 Pro Charge Mustang. Thanks for watching. So these are all the tools that you're going to need in order to complete the installation. I got needle nose, that's for just getting some of the odds and ends off the bottom of the seat. There's a lot of plugs down there, especially if you have the premium package with air conditioning or heated and cooled seats. Lots of plugs, lots of plugs, lots of plugs. So different things to help get those leveraged out. So flatheads, various ones, T15 Torx bit to remove one of the bolts, or I guess one of the little screws on the bottom of the seat. There's only one that really needs to come off. Magnet, because I'm always losing things. On this side you'll need solder. I'll talk about that in just a second. So you need a soldering iron and solder. 5mm Allen key. This is for the bottom of the seats when you're connecting the frame sliders to the custom-made seat mounts. Some other snips, I think I said T50 Torx bit head. This is for removing the seats. 12mm, this is for bolting the sliders to the seats. 3/8 ratchet, this big old wrench is just for leverage to crack loose the bolts. I'd rather not work too hard, so I just use that for leverage to crack those bolts loose. Razor blade, because you have to do a little bit of trimming. 2.2 ohm 1 watt resistors. This is for wiring the airbag. That's where the solder comes into place. Do it right. Solder it. Don't use butt connectors. That's ghetto. Electrical tape, another ghetto way of wrapping this stuff up, but I already used all my shrink wrap. So if you don't have shrink wrap, electrical tape will work. Just make sure you do it right, and it's not all sticky and crappy. So this is the tools that you're basically going to need to do the install of the seats. So here's the passenger seat completely disassembled already. Like I said, I wasn't going to bother you with pulling bolts and nuts and screws. So this is what the bottom of it will look like. There's lots to do down here. Everywhere you see a little hole or a clip, something from the wiring harness goes in there. What I wanted to point out here is two things when it comes to the bottom of the seat. One of them is where the airbag harness goes to, and then also how to remove the pressure sensor so that way you can avoid your airbag light. So first, the harness. So down here in the corner of the seat, you're going to find the harness. This is the one you're going to need to clip. So it runs right in the corner. You'll need to clip this one. Make sure you shred it back a little ways or cut it back a little ways so you have access to the harness. But these are the ones that you're going to end up clipping so that you can make the resistor, or tie the resistor in. So that's the first one. The second one is you're going to see a little water line that comes out of here. It looks just like this because this is it. That's going to be mounted right here and then run down inside of here. So to get this whole mechanism that you see right here, or water bladder, from here to here, there's only one thing that really needs to happen, or a couple things I guess I should say. You're going to unclip here, unclip here, unclip here, and unclip here. You don't need to mess around with this whole side right here and pull that off. You can get to it pretty easily by just undoing these 4 clips and then lifting your seat back a little ways. Once you have your seat back a little bit, you'll be able to pull this whole piece out, including the sensor, which will route about through here. You'll pull that whole piece out, and then you're going to transfer that over to the passenger seat of the Braum, or the Braum seat. So that way, when it comes to pressure sensitivity for your airbag, this whole mechanism is left in place. So this is what it looks like. You don't want to mess with this. You don't want it to leak, so be careful. This is the sensor that you'll need to pull off of the passenger seat and put onto the Braum racing seat. The harness is pretty intense. So this is what it looks like. It's massive. Like I said, mine has heated and cool seats, so that adds a little bit, plus they're power seats. The few things that you're going to need to know about this particular harness, I guess, are the following to turn your airbag light off. First, this is the seat position sensor. So the seat position sensor on this will be bolted right up here. You'll need to remove that and then mount this over to this side. So I'll show you where I'm going to mount it after I get all this bolted up. The other sensor that you're going to need, like I said, is the airbag sensor. That is this guy right here, and I've already wired it up. So let me grab that really quickly. Yeah, I don't know where I put it. Ah, here it is. So this is the already pre-made airbag sensor. So you see this is stock, this is already factory looped. This is where I put the 2 ohm sensor or resistor into place. I soldered it in up here, then soldered the connection point here. I added wire just because I didn't want to solder the resistor straight to the factory wire. I don't know why, I don't know, pet peeve. And then the other thing you're gonna need to do is the airbag, or no, I'm sorry, the seatbelt sensor. This is also gonna need to be connected. So essentially what I did here is I pulled the entire factory harness off, which is what you have right here. I'm gonna transfer the whole thing over to this right here, including the loop that I made, including seatbelt sensor I made, including the pressure sensor over here. Put that all on the Braum seat. That should avoid the airbag light. The driver's side is obviously much simpler, very much like installing headers on this car. Passenger side is the bitch. So one of the things that I forgot to mention was the bolt on the side to get your seat belt buckle off of the stock seat. It's going to be that same T56 bolt that you have to get the seat off of it. So the bolt on this one actually ends up being short, so I ended up knocking it out. I didn't feel like it was enough, or there were enough threads for my safety or anybody that was sitting in my car. So I ended up knocking the bolt out. So I still got to clean that off. But knocking the bolt out, and then I went and picked up some grade 8 bolts and a lock washer, a little bit longer. So I'll be using these to secure the seatbelt buckle to the seats. Right down over here, just a little bit safer. This is the driver's seat. I'm getting ready to get started on this one. I'll show you how the wiring harness ends up on this one. It's a little bit shorter than the passenger seat. So here's how I ran the harness. Essentially zip tied it to the bottom. This is the same for this is the driver's side, but basically did the same thing on the passenger side. So ran it up, around. There's not a lot of room right here when you're inside of the vehicle, so you can't put a lot of the harness up front. Just down, around. And then this is where the airbag sensor is, but kind of just bundled it there. There's a lot more room in the back. And then this is the main harness. This is essentially what I did, was just run it around, leave a big plate in the middle. What I'll eventually do is fabricate a plate that'll go right over there, especially when I start working on integrating the cooled seat part of it into these seats. But this is good enough for now. Works out pretty well. So actually putting the seats in is pretty simplistic. Just fold them up, bring them in, set them down, and then all you're going to do is just connect the 2 harnesses together, the one hanging off of it, and then one at the base. The only downside to the seats is that you don't have the plastic pieces to cover up the holes anymore, so those will show. I'll show you a solution for it probably in another video, but I've ordered some carpet. I'm going to fill these holes in so that way it looks more like stock. You can't really see these. So here they are, all installed. Fit pretty perfectly actually. Small adjustment, I ended up moving the driver's seat this way a little bit on the frame, but otherwise everything fits like a glove. Fantastic seats. And this is what I was talking about as far as being able to see the piece. Sorry, I haven't vacuumed my floor mats in a minute. You can see the body down there. It's not very visible, but just enough. I'll have that fixed. Here they go.